recorded September 2nd, 2024. Happy Labor Day, Rod. Where's everyone? It's Labor Day. Doesn't mean you don't get to do labor. Where's everyone?
Last week I was thinking about it. I thought it was highly unusual to actually wish someone happy Labor Day.
Isn't
happy
the day that
work day? What
all
I mean,
women in the world
sounds weird.
have the baby at the same time? Is that what it is? Like Labor Day?
Well, so you made that joke earlier. I thought that was funny because my niece just had her first baby. I'm now a great uncle, which is it feels kind of cool. But I told her, I said, hey, couldn't you wait until Monday to have that baby? And she didn't get it. She's not quick anyway. So
not one of those jokes that it doesn't translate from male to female. No. It doesn't translate. I get it. I for all our Americans stateside listeners, Labor Day is one of these odd holidays that falls always on the first Monday in September, right? Yeah, been that way since I know. And this is generally a day that is opposite of the labor. You take off. It's a federal holiday. It's a lot of people sit around and they barbecue and they cook and burgers and franks and do it.
They work hard at not labor. They work hard at not laboring.
Yeah, I don't like it because the next day is a work day. It's like the 4th of July here, Independence Day, that rolls. So when it's a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, Thursday or Friday, it's a great holiday because most people take that long week off. But this is the middle of the week, so whatever I was going to do, I did yesterday. Today was catching up. Not supposed to be working, but nobody's looking for you, so you can get stuff done, right? And that's what I like. So I'm, and I had to cheat on you a little bit, Rod.
I
just had a little KQL book, and I decided to go see what it was about.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good book.
Actually, yeah, he came on the show.
Yeah,
I think he came on the show. Somebody who did the technical highlights. I think you wrote the forward on this, right?
I can't remember. I write forwards in my sleep.
Your name is in here. I see it right here. So yeah, I'm going through it. It's a little bit different from yours. This is a bunch of exercises. It sort of reminds me of the Pluralsight course, Scratch KQL from scratch.
Something very similar. Yeah. Who was it? Don Jones that did like the power lunch. What? PowerShell and 30 Days of Lunches or something.
Oh yeah, excellent series. PowerShell in the Month of Lunches. I like all their Month of Lunches books. So hey, this is our day. We're missing Ray. She had parental duties. School is starting for her little one. Kindergarten, I believe, something like that. And Brody is doing post-parental things. For those that know that he is a new father, relatively new, and his first day off, his wife gave him a little bit of time off to go golf. That's one of his passions. He loves it. I used to love it, but I don't love it like him anymore. Just you and I would know what our passions are. I got up this morning and did a slow 5 kilometers. I was just sort of just floating today. The weather was like 74 Fahrenheit. It was excellent. I ran a hard 10-miler on Saturday. Ate me up. Hey, so I know it's Monday and we skipped the day, but it's throwing me off. It wants to be Sunday. But you do cool before the week ended because I don't think we talked since like Thursday. Anything cool you break?
To be honest, I'm 100% into the world of Copilot for security, which is interesting in that it connects to everything. So you have to kind of have a good knowledge of just about everything. However, I found out something cool a couple weeks ago. I want to share with everyone. This works for Copilot for security, but it also works for all of our Copilots. People know that Copilot for security is based on the framework, our plugins. So whatever plugin that you have enabled, say it's Entra, because you have that enabled, that makes it more keen or more intelligent for your own environment because you have that enabled. However, you can bypass all plugins. Doesn't matter what Copilot you use. It could be the Bing one. It could be, Copilot 365, M365.
There are literally a bunch. I saw a Copilot. But I'll tell you another one that I found. But go ahead and finish yours.
Yeah. So there's actually a switch. It's /AskGPT.
Yep.
Literally bypasses all plugins and goes straight to GPT. So you can ask it any question you want. So, sometimes I'll go on Copilot for security, say I'll do some weird things, just silly things to see if it's going to respond or not. Most of the time it won't, because it will tell me that it's a security Copilot and it shouldn't be answering those things. But if I give it a slash ask GPT, it's going to answer those for me anyway. So it's a way to bypass. There are other switches that I'm actually starting to document.
I learned one too. I learned of a switch that tells it not to look at the large language model, but look at the most recent data in it. So it can see and be very focused and not look at the LLMs that it's referencing in your environment. You can look at a very specific subsets and stuff. You know, it wasn't my primary thing last year, but it is now. So I'm really having to dive down deep into it. But luckily, you know, you were super deep into it. Andrea was into it. I went through the champs thing. I went to the, so I'm not starting net new. So the learning curve is not like this for me. It's sort of like this. And so I'm having to really get into it. But I did so much simple stuff, and I had to figure out those muscles again. So I was playing around with that Azure pipeline and trying to figure out some high ingestion modeling for somebody looking at some things, and some Splunk stuff and a couple other things. So I'm playing with some data lake stuff. We'll talk about that on another show. That idea that we had about putting it flat, I got an idea. So we'll talk about that something too. But let me tell you something really cool. Let me share a screen. I don't want to guess it in the green too long, but check this out.
Okay.
So someone asked, hey man, I'm trying to figure out, one thing led to another really quick. So coming up here, might be now, but definitely into September, you can no longer use classic administrator models inside Azure. They're getting ready to deprecate those. You're going to have to move those over to role-based or job description-based. So let me do my screen really quick. Share screen. I don't want to embarrass myself. Here and go window, and it's that one. So what happened is that share. All right. So what is happening is that they're retiring classic administrator models from the old classic Azure, right? So co-administrators and so on. So they're asking you to transition over. This is part of the security first initiative and cleaning up a lot of these Azure tenants that were basically it was wild west for a while. Credit card, stand up a tenant, free subscription, stand up a tenant, a trial. And now they're all over the place. So now Microsoft is making a concerted effort that they're going to bring all these things in. I've been told a lot of subscriptions that I have don't have a credit card attached to it. Like, you don't attach a credit card or a payment method, and the billing, you have to update the billing account here. It's going to go away. So when you look at Azure Classic subscriptions, you see, it's retired. You'll see that that's already happened. So we need to, consumers of this cloud service need to go in and prepare for co-administrator retirement. So review your current co-administrators, look them up, that no longer get access, replace co-administrators with a job function role, or replace the co-administrators with an owner role and conditions. So I had a bunch of test stuff. I had to go in and take care of those. Prepare for server administrator retirement, retire, blah, 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 blah. We'll put this in the show notes. I may have already sent this to you. But the reason is, from this question, say, I don't know what I don't know about my 365 environment and the configuration. And there's some tools out there, Cloud Docket, a few others. And there's some MVPs that have written, PowerShell scripts and stuff like that can go in. But here's one I really like. It is called Microsoft 365 desired state configuration. So you can come in and run this PowerShell, and it will represent your 365 environment as code. So you can see all of these things documented and be able to put it out. So it's great. I've tried it. It was read the documentation because I skipped a step and I couldn't get it to work, and it was ended up bringing permission. But now you can sit here and you can take a snapshot of your existing environment with this right here. And there's some modules you have to download and put it in. But look at that. It allows you to come in and pull these things about your Azure AD Exchange, Intune 365, basically the collaboration platform and the identity platform. It doesn't do the resources and the compute. There are other tools to do this. But if you really want to come in and get a landscape of what has happened, right? I thought this would be an excellent consulting tool, but it will tip off certain security tools. If it looks like it's doing enumeration of your environment, certain things will go, somebody is enumerating your environment, even though you have to have a privileged account to do this, of course. So wasn't hard. The site is actually really good. The blog is fairly, they haven't really kept it up, but they tend to put the tools in more than they put the blog in. The user guides are good. If you want to contribute, you can. I think this is a Microsoft sponsored resource. So concepts, a couple of resources here. Security and compliance stuff is pretty good. You can see the commandlets that they have, being able to pull stuff right here. And so this is actually pretty good to put in your toolkit. If for nothing else, it let me know how my all my test environments were laid out, because there was some stuff I had forgotten all about, right? So we'll give this out to our listeners. It is the Microsoft Design State Configuration. It's the URL is pretty simple. Is I'll throw it in the I'll copy it and we'll highlight it for a minute. But it's
I'll have it. I'll have it in the show notes.
Yeah. So look at this and then make sure that if you haven't, I don't know the repercussions of not switching them over, other than you can't log in and it starts yelling at you to change it. So if you're a co-administrator logging in and you're not an owner, you're not going to be able to log in. The first day is going to tell you contract your administrator, right? Now you can't be locked out, right? Because that's a co-administrator, not the administrator. But you're starting to see these changes, mandatory MFA, things that should have been done years ago.
Imagine that. Imagine Microsoft being serious about security.
And I saw something else. I wasn't able to get in the show notes. We'll get out here really quick. There was a LinkedIn post by a guy that's really solid that they're forcing to break glass accounts to be MFA.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's no excuse. They said, well, what happens if we have an outage? We can't. Remember that happened last year or whatever. The token life has been extended. So it would take a perfect storm for you not to log in. And the recommendation is for you to use a physical FIDO key, FIDO, UB, 2 of them for your break glass account. So I'll have that and give it out for the show notes. That's pretty slick. And I think it's very necessary to be able to do that. So that's all I had this week, man. I didn't really break anything in the lab. There was some cool stuff with MDI with a new PowerShell module update, being able to see whatever they call in the AD Connect, syncing between on-premise and the cloud to see activity between that, attribute changes and synchronization. I want to play with it in the lab a little bit before I start breaking anything. Well, and then I'll do a little bit of a download to everything. So that's all I had.
You sent me a couple other links. Maybe we can talk about those next show. It was the XDR correlation thing, and then also
XDR correlation.
The red team tool, the KQL hunting queries. So maybe I'll save that for next week. We can chat about. So
yeah, we'll do it then. All right. Well, we got guests in the green room drinking up all of our beer, eating up all of our snacks.
Well, they're from the UK and Denmark, I believe. So big on beer, big on snacks. I think we should invite them to the show because I'm actually really excited about this show. I'm excited about every show. I don't want to upset any of our past guests, but I'm really excited about this. What did I say early on? All I do these days is Copilot for security. So I'm super happy to have this group. Would you like to introduce yourselves? And please, while you're doing that, I think your company name's a tongue twister. I'm still trying to figure out how to say it right. Jose, you want to start with you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Ed. Thank you for the invite today. My name is Jose Lázaro. I am the head of consulting at Performanta. I struggle myself to say the name, so I forgive you. And Torvald.
Yeah, that's me. I'm Torvald. I'm the head of security automation at Performanta. I'm real happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
So one thing I really like about these guys, Jose flexing. He has his MVP sitting behind him, just so he cleaned it up, got all the dust off of it, made it shining pretty. I'm good with that.
I was going to put my jacket on, but I thought maybe it's too much, right? Yeah. Just take it easy. Don't go out so quickly.
Yeah, it's a cold day. You need a jacket.
I get to visit a couple MVPs next week from Denmark. So I'll and friends of the show. Big shout out Henrik. Big shout out Martin.
I actually threw a party. I got my MVP back in March this year, and I was like, "Oh yeah, let's do it!" Absolutely over the moon, right? Such a big achievement for myself.
Well, congratulations!
Microsoft before awesome. And now being an MVP. Thank you very much, man. It means a lot to me, and to what I do on a daily basis. So good stuff, right?
Maybe send some notes, because maybe Frank Grunberg can figure out how he can be an MVP.
Oh no!
Inside joke. Yeah. Inside joke. So thank you two for coming on to the show. if Rod's excited, it takes a lot. You know, he's deadpan, but he's excited about having you guys on. So it must be something really good for him to do it on an off day.
So before we get started, explain what the company, and I'm going to try it, Performanta.
There you go. You got it.
Close?
Pretty
Okay.
much.
Skills.
Explain what, because obviously we have something very specific to showcase tonight. And for those just listening in, so we do have audio only listeners. They should come back and watch this because there's going to be demos. But give us a little information, or at least a starter, about the company in general, because I'm sure your company didn't just start up because of Copilot for Security.
No, absolutely no. We've been running for the last 20 years. We're a managed security services organization. We have a SOC team. We operate in 3 countries, which is the UK, the USA, and South Africa. We do Microsoft. We love Microsoft, fully invested in the whole stack. And we do the end-to-end deployment. We have professional services, which means we go into customers, we consult. We then have SIEM engineering, looking after Sentinel, rolling out all of the configuration, making sure, it's all Gucci. And then we also have our automation team with Torvald, just looking into just getting rid of all of that noise, getting rid of the false positive, and actually delivering value through the Microsoft ecosystem. Anything you would add, Torvald?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. We run the gamut. If you need it, we do it.
Well, it seems like you're also pretty intricately aligned with the Copilot for Security, maybe, some of the early stuff, and also our MISA teams, I guess. So how does that work?
It's been a fantastic journey, okay? Since we became a Microsoft first house, everything is just have skyrocketed, okay? So we're a MISA member. Actually, early in this year, I was in San Francisco. We were in the MISA Awards. Amazing ceremony. We get to meet Maria Thompson in there.
Yeah, she's awesome.
That was next level, right? I had a full setup for us, and it was great to mingle with all the partners around and have the conversations, looking into any private preview products that you guys were developing, looking at the roadmap coming up for this quarter. I mean, it was a life-changing experience for myself, for example. The first time I was involved in that sort of event, it made a huge impact for us, so we could plan ahead and also get to meet, wonderful people within Microsoft. So far so good, right? And we also recently became a member of the SecPac, which is the Security Partner Advisory Council, which means now we're helping Microsoft to develop the product, to shape the product, and hopefully just deliver better service through the Microsoft ecosystem, right? We keep growing and, all together, better together, right? Microsoft and partners. And that's the way we look at it, really.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So Jose, it sounds like you're pretty closely aligned with kind of the partner side. Torvald, are you also? I mean, how do you fit there?
No, it's I'm much more aligned with the technical side. I'm getting my hands dirty playing with Copilot every day, trying to work it into our processes, trying to force it to do things, trying to figure out what it can and can't do. Essentially, we actually got early access to Copilot for Security way back early this year. Actually, the late end of last year, we were super lucky to get that, and we were just chomping at the bit to get our hands dirty, to figure out what it could do and what it couldn't do. And I think I've got some pretty cool stuff to show you later on. I'm not gonna blow the whole surprise right now, but we're getting some really cool stuff out of Copilot. It is a very, very, very cool tool, and when you use it right, you can get some fantastic results. So
do you remember that conversation, Torvald, when we first had the access and we thought, ooh, this is spicy, right? There's so much we can do with it. And you were like,
yeah.
I've got some ideas in here. And then we just started working together and just building it up. And it's been a journey for us. It's been really exciting, Rod, Ed. I can't tell you how excited the business is based on what we've developed. And then when we present the positioning, the offering to our customers, they're like, nah, you can't do it, because you go first with the PowerPoint tech, which is whatever, slides, but then we show them what that looks like, and it's like, ooh, okay, now we're talking.
So this has me really truly excited. Sorry, Edward, because we had in March, Edward, you remember this? We had a whole month for April for partners. And it was all Copilot for Security partners. And at the time, we asked the question, so what do you think about this thing? What are you going to do with it? And a lot of it was a bunch of head scratching. So we're like 6 months later, and you all are going, oh my goodness, this is great. So this is
it may be warranted to have a partner Copilot theme month, because every April is our partner highlight month. We do it every April, right? And so if you're part of the partner program, you should be familiar with Mr. James Key, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Friend of the show.
Absolutely.
Hello,
Top man.
James.
Hey, James.
And so your name was on the list. We just had a hard selection process of who we could get on. Everybody was calling in and ringing. And so we did it. It's 4 hosts. Everybody choose a host and a half, and we'll go from there, right? So there was no slight, but your name did come up as one of the top performers. To be very honest, I knew nothing. I knew very little about your company. I knew about you from your MSP and your security work, but not a Copilot person. When I saw your name, I'm like, oh, that looks familiar, but I've not encountered you directly in the States, right? So across the pond, your name is known. You know, your competitors know you very well, Quorum Cyber and a few others over there, right? So they know who you are. And but it's great to have you guys on. I really want to see this demo because, for someone to come on and say they don't want to talk about it, they want to show it, then there must be something they want to show, right? And so I'd like to show you guys off again to my team when I'm in Denmark next week. If we
Absolutely.
so
we can arrange that.
Without further ado, I'll be quiet and let you guys do what you do. I want to see this.
Are you ready
Sounds
for
good.
the slideshow, Jose?
I was born ready, so let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. As a reminder, before you get started, if you're just listening to this podcast, come back to MicrosoftSecurityInsights.com and watch the replay, because this is lots of demos. Here we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. So today we want to show you what cybersecurity looks like in this new era of AI, digital transformation, and the Microsoft XDR stack. Okay. So I think it's important that to begin with, let me see if can you see the slides just showing? Yes, I can't see them on the screen.
Yep,
Yeah,
we
they're up
can see
now.
them. You're good to
So,
go.
well, myself, I lead the consultancy. I'm the VP of consulting for Performanta. So I've got a full group of consultants just doing Microsoft day and night. And Torvald leads automation team. Again, going through all of the improvement processes, making sure that when something comes through, it's actually because we have to action it. Okay. So as a partner, as you just said, Rod, we are a member of all of your programs. We are in MISA, we are in MXDR, we are Fast Track, ECIV, and all of the good stuff, right? Which means we've got the access to all of the preview features, okay, for all of your solutions, meaning we can stay ahead of the game sort of thing, and then we can deliver just top service to our customers because we can plan in advance, knowing what's coming up. Also, as I said, we went to MISA, phenomenal experience, right? Hopefully we'll go next year again. Um, Having said that, I want to talk about the threat landscape. So what are we facing, first of all? Because this is one of the conversations we have with our customers, right? What should I focus on? What's our main concern right now? What should I tackle? So what we found based on our experience as an MSSP doing 20 years of security around the globe with many customers is that there are 3 main challenges that we get to see every day. The first one is to have that massive skills gap. It's really hard to find the right people, Rod, as you know, Ed, Torvald. There are around 3.5 million vacancies in cybersecurity globally, okay? And then again, we're seeing an 11% year-on-year pay growth, which is great for people like yourselves, right? Security experts with the background. But then imagine being a small business, small company, trying to hire the right person who's going to sort out the security to close the gaps. It's nearly impossible, right, to get that talent. Then we're also seeing an increase in cyber attacks. Back in January, I'm sure you guys remember, we have the model of all breaches. We had around 4,000 organizations being breached. We had around 26 billion records being exfiltrated on the dark web with a combined ransom of $10 trillion, which is a lot of money, right? And then back early, I think it was March or February, you guys released the Digital Defense Report 2024, where you guys highlighted 4,000 password attacks per second being executed against Active Directory and Entra and all of the IAM solutions basically in the market. Again, how do you scale? How can you actually do something about it? It's just far too much going on, right? If you have small SOC in your team, let's say 5 people looking after the security, you can't keep up, right? As simple as that. And then finally, we have the growth in cyber spend. it will cost you around $4.5 million to recover from a breach, okay? And you might pay the ransom, but you might not get your data back, right? And the second thing is that you might get it back, but then that could be leaked on that web. So again, it's a lose-lose situation. And my advice is just don't pay the ransom, just actually get stuff sorted, get your security in place. But again, it's a really challenging environment we're facing right now. And then all in all, we have around $2 trillion increase on cyber spend globally. So I really like this sliding here. So IT is just harder to defend. And the reason I like this is because I've got coffee problems. I'm a massive coffee drinker. I will have probably 4 or 5 coffees a day. And it's funny because when I went to Microsoft Build early in the year, I went to, I'm an early bird. I get up really early, right? 5 in the morning, 5:30. Since I had kids, I just can't sleep anymore. Don't know why, but that's the way. I'm sure you guys can relate, right? um, so I go out at
Probably
5
all
a.m.
that coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
5 a.m. in Seattle, which is not a good idea just to go out for a walk. But anyway, I just went out. And then the only place you're going to find open, a coffee shop, is Starbucks. Okay. I go in there and bad idea. Okay. All I wanted was coffee. I walk in, this very nice lady. She says, "What would you like?" I decided that I wanted a cappuccino that morning. Right. The amount of questions I got asked. What type of milk would you like? Almond, hazelnut. Do you want it in a cup? Do you like it to take it in here? What size would you like? And I said, can I have a large? And then she says, oh, you mean grande? It's a large one. Just leave me alone. I just want a coffee. It's 5:30 in
Yeah.
the morning. Right. I'm facing the same challenges in cybersecurity. All I wanted was just to go in and out, get my black Americano. 15 years ago, I would get my Americano easy. Now, just try. Okay. You have lack of resources, you have increased regulation, FCA, GDPR, PCI, SOC 2, and I could carry on for the next half an hour, right? You have hybrid IT, you have the cloud. How do you make that together? How do you make sure you have that asset inventory? How do you patch effectively all of your devices? It's really hard, right, to keep up with what's happening with your infrastructure. Again, event and alert volume, one of the key problems, because some companies, businesses will go, they will buy a SIEM solution, they will set it up. Surprise, you've got 1,000 alerts. What are you going to do about it? Right? You don't have the staff, you don't have the people to actually manage these. And then legacy environments is a good one. I had one of my customers like 6 months ago. He came to me saying, Jose, I have this Windows Server 2002. What can I do to protect it? I said to him, just burn it. Just get some gas, just pour it on it, just burn it. You know what I mean? And this is our daily workload. This is what we have to deal with on a daily basis. And again, the result of this is basically having limited visibility, far too many solutions, nothing talks to each other. So you don't have that single pane of glass. You have limited insight and limited risk treatment. So I think it's important we understand how a SOC works, first of all, and what the MDR looks like in a traditional way. Normally, you will have your NDR solution for your network, then you have your EDR to protect your endpoints, and you have your SIEM. It normally it's very noisy if you don't have any fine tuning in there. And then all of those logs, alerts, and data will then be contextualized and then sent to your SOC team as a security operations center. These people who are going to react and take action, monitor. Um, for the traditional approach, there's no digital forensics or incident response, it's just monitoring. Again, 1,000 alerts and then just monitoring. What's the point, really? Just you're being hacked. Great. What are you going to do about it, right? What we've seen based on our knowledge, experience, the time we've been doing security is that the industry average for the mean time to respond from alert getting triggered to then being triage, enrich, contain, and then having some sort of integration with a service desk, ITSM tool, and then having some actions confirmed, it's an hour and a half. Okay. This is being very optimistic, guys. Let's be honest, right? I used to work for Microsoft. I used to be a pattern architect, and I could see that actually patterns meeting this sort of time were good. Okay, and again, if you're a business, it's hard to be able to manage effectively these timelines in here. What we've done is that we have reshaped cybersecurity. Okay, this is our approach to Microsoft. This is our approach to XDR, and this is how we efficiently manage all of this alert, all of this data coming, and giving it context to you so you can understand what you need to prioritize. As you can see on the bottom right, you have the XDR managed controls. We went from just having NDR, EDR, and SIEM to now having identity, email, DLP, CASB, PIN, BAMPAS, and so on. Then you have a new layer, which is XDR ASM for attack surface management. Think about Defender for Cloud. Think about cloud posture management, external attack surface management. There's so much that we can do around those solutions, all built in, by the way, through Secure Score, through built-in assessments, and so much. And then what we do as a partner service provider, we take all of that data and we consolidate it in our cyber asset attack surface management, which is called Encore, which is basically a solution that we have developed that will take all of that data through APIs, collect it, and just present that to a customer on a single pane of glass. Okay, we call this basically the safe platform, okay, or safe XDR. And then you have two more layers in here because we were thinking we are doing security the right way, but there's more we can do. And then we thought if we have a ROC or a risk operation center, we could do more. And I'll tell you what that looks like in a minute. And then we are aligned to CTEM, which is the continuous threat exposure management, which is basically a methodology that Gartner released and we follow because we found efficient, effective, and actually help us to drive the security of our customers better. Around the ROC, so what the ROC will give you is something that most XDR solutions are lacking really, which is having a person, a human. And again, when people say, oh, AI is going to replace human, no, it's not. It's called Copilot for a reason, right? And this is something we have to remember. This is something that will help the driver to actually drive better, to have a better view, visibility of what's going on in the environment. So what the ROC does is to have a person that we call, for example, a security optimization manager that knows security, is a risk specialist that will help our customers to understand, prioritize the risk, and be able to hold the customer's hand and tell them what they need to action, when they need to action it, and the reasons behind it. As simple as that, right? This is how you tackle your gaps, and this is how we're going to do it together. Again, when people say Sentinel is not adding any value, there's something missing in there. Okay, and again, having a figure like this, somebody who understands the context, the solutions, will make a big difference. So what we've done is based on what we've built, that sort of like architecture around XDR and SIEM, is that we managed to bring the mean time to respond through safe XDR from 1 hour and 30 minutes, remember, to just 25 minutes or less per incident. Okay, that's taking into account all of the new XDR managed controls, all of the new ASM managed controls, having the ROC and the SOM and all of those figures in there. So that's a 4-time improvement in the mean time to respond. Again, we just thought, okay, this is good, but we can still do better than this, right? And this is when we were told that actually we were going to get access to Copilot for security. And we thought, haha, okay, let's have a look. Let's see what we can do around that. So through some integrations that we're going to show you today, we managed to bring the mean time to respond to just 30 seconds. When I present this slide, people say, yeah, whatever. I had a guy saying, no way, Jose. Right? you can't make that
That's
happen.
good.
Typical, right? Typical. I was like, I'll show you. Okay, I'm not lying to you. So again, through SafeXDR and Microsoft Copilot for Security, we managed to complete all of these steps in just 30 seconds. I think the way we do it basically it's using our architecture as I showed you, but now we have a new layer against each of the items, which is now the managed controls. We get the context with AI, the security operations center, and the automation. Now it's get AI to actually, automate responses, to validate data, and even integrate third-party solutions into Sentinel and the Copilot tool, basically, to be able to contextualize data. Okay, so not only this will look after your Microsoft ecosystem, but we look after third parties, because you have to understand, right, that sometimes customers have certain requirements and they want to keep a third party vendor, and that's okay. And that's what I love about Microsoft, by the way, that it allows the integration, and most of the time it's very straightforward. And then again, having the recommendations. For example, when you have Copilot for security, if you have Intune, it will tell you what needs to be patched. It will tell you about CVEs, exposure levels. It will tell you what to do step by step. I mean, that's amazing, right? KQL queries. I mean, Rod, come on, you are the KQL god, right? So you've seen the quality of the queries sometimes that Copilot for security produces, and you're like, okay, now we're talking. You're making my life easier, and that's what we're adding to our customers, and they can see the value because we work quicker, more effectively, and we deliver better value. As simple as that. So I think I'm going to now hand over to Torvald, who's going to show you something that we've put together for you guys. Over to you, Torvald.
Right, sounds good. Hey, so there's a couple things while you're setting that up. Really good comment from one of people in the audience. The false positives. I'm sure you'll probably talk to this shortly, but let's just kind of keep that up there as one bullet point. The other piece of that, and the one that I've been focused on more recently, is the vetting. If you're going to add AI, and you can maybe speak to this later, if you're going to add AI to one of those layers, you have to be able to trust that the response from that AI is going to be vetted and verified and perfect each and every time. So,
well, I would say perfection is not the goal. The goal is
exactly
a false positive that even if it has you go down an incorrect path, is not catastrophic in your in how it affects your environment and your response. Meaning, an ineffective response that causes you to isolate a critical resource is as bad as ignoring one and then allowing that. Having delved into the incident response over the last year, looking at the way threat actors navigate everything from tool sets, Carbon Strike, and other tools, to Cobalt Strike, Carbon Strike, Cobalt Strike, all the way to living off the land with WMI, PowerShell commands, and stuff like that. None reaction or none response to a perceived false positive can be as bad as isolating machine. So I think you have to build that trust. I keep hearing all these things, and I like when Ross says you have to trust it. Because if we're going to say it's artificial intelligence, you start talking about it as though it is a organic responder, then trust is part of security. That's what it is, right? So you have to trust this technology. So as we learn more and partners innovate more, I think that one of the things we have to put in there to make people feel warm and fuzzy, CISOs, you can trust this. And trust is reputation. And that's what I really want to focus on partners saying they do this. Trust is reputation. Build a reputation, the trust comes, and so forth.
You will see some examples of validation as well that I'm not going to steal your thunder, Torvald, but basically we just don't automate false positives. We don't do that. There's a process in between that we're going to be showing anyway.
Awesome. Okay.
I love the way you answered that question as well, because it's like you said, we'll always strive towards perfection, but we're never going to actually achieve it. So we have to build our processes and we have to use our tools with this idea in mind that we're going to essentially use them at the best, the best of the capabilities that we have to achieve the best possible outcome that we can. And that's how we went into using Copilot when we got access to it. We knew that it was a good tool. We knew that it was an effective tool. And we also knew that it was not a full solution to everything. You can't just throw everything at Copilot and it fixes it. It's not a genie in the bottle, right? But it is something that you can use to massively increase your efficiency, massively increase the speed at which you respond, and massively increase the quality at which the investigations and the decisions and the determinations that you're putting out. Are you able to see my screen, by the way? It should say Microsoft Copilot for Security Assisted Investigation.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So like I mentioned before, we received early access to Microsoft Copilot for Security very late last year. And we were just so excited. We couldn't wait to get our hands on it and see what it was good at. We started putting it through its paces. Jose already mentioned that we found out it's really good at generating KQL queries. It can even run KQL queries. We found that it's really good at connecting the dots. It's good if you feed it information over time in a conversation. It's good at remembering the information you've given it and starting to connect the dots between what it has seen and what is happening. It can actually perform sort of almost analyst style analysis, almost a human style analysis of what is going on. It even has some pretty cool, I guess more advanced features where you can actually ask Copilot to reverse engineer a piece of malware that you upload to it, and it will start to tell you what this malware is doing on your host, which is really cool. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Copilot. And in fact, the only real drawback that we found to Copilot is the way it's designed to be interacted with. Essentially, right at the moment, every single request, every single prompt has to be entered manually into Copilot by a human being. And we thought, hey, if we could automate our interactions with Copilot for security, we could start to enhance our existing processes by incorporating Copilot into those processes. Let me draw a picture for you. Right now, if you want to use Copilot, you essentially have to have a human being sit down at their computer, open up Azure, log in, you open up their phone, use MFA and everything. From there, you have to go to Copilot. You open that up. Within Copilot, you open up a prompt. Then you type out the entire prompt. Then you submit that prompt, and then you wait for Copilot to respond. And then when it responds, you read through the response, and you probably repeat the process 3 or 4 more times because you've got more questions, which is a bit of a lengthy process. There's a bit of baggage in there. And like I said, if we could automate that, there's so much that we could do. There's so much that we could streamline here. We could start to ingrain Copilot AI into our analysis, into our enrichment, into the investigations, even into the decision making, or at least the recommendations. Basically, we had massive visions of everything that we could do with Copilot. And in order to accommodate what we wanted to do with Copilot, we created our own API, which taps into Copilot, allowing us to essentially feed arbitrary prompts, meaning any information from any source, into Copilot. And we created an integration in our SOAR, which is our automation platform, which can interface with that API. Now, what does that look like? I hope you're watching this and not just listening. I've got a little diagram here. We've got our SOAR automation platform. It connects to everything. It connects to your attack surface management, your ServiceNow, Service Desk platform, your EDR products, your threat intelligence, your SIMs, dozens of other products that I couldn't even fit on the page here. Now, what does this look like when we put Copilot into the mix? What we have now is, you can see here, Copilot for security at the top. We have a direct line of communication, two-way communication between Copilot and every other product that we already support, that we're already fully integrated with. And I want to underline the fact that this is two-way communication, because this is already going beyond the bounds of what Copilot was essentially designed to do. Copilot, it was designed to be able to tap into these products, but it was not designed to take prompts from these products. It was not designed to take instructions from these products. Just to kind of get the gears in your head turning, what we have now is this two-way communication that can enable something like, for example, if we take CrowdStrike Falcon, which is, it's not Microsoft, nothing to do with Microsoft, completely different company. If we take CrowdStrike, we could set up an automation where every time an alert comes in on CrowdStrike, we automatically take that alert, extract all the entities, all the IOCs, all the users, hosts, IP addresses related to it, and we package it up into a prompt which we feed into Microsoft Copilot for Security. And we ask Copilot for Security specific questions about all of these IOCs. We ask it if it knows anything about these users, about these IP addresses. We could perform a fully fledged investigation automatically on security data coming from a product that's not even, it's not within the Microsoft stack at all. It has nothing to do with Microsoft. And once we get the output, we can do whatever we want with that as well. We could, for example, pipe it right back into CrowdStrike as a comment on that alert, so that the first time any human being actually logs in and sees this alert, it will have a fully fledged investigation in progress from Microsoft, which is pretty dang cool, if I do say so myself. We don't even have to stop there. If we wanted, we could actually pipe that information into our attack surface management platform, into Encore, which is a platform that we've actually built. We could start to connect the dots further between what other hosts, whether machines might have been affected in this security incident. And we could even ping pong back and forth between Copilot and all of these products, gathering more information, bit by bit, building out this investigation, which is happening in a fully automated way. I hope that has sort of gotten the wheels turning in your head, because
it actually has the wheels turning a whole lot. We have a question. You want to highlight it, Rod? The one that you have starred? It says, why pay for Copilot if from the laptop is the plugin? Well, because Copilot is run inside of a guardrail system, which is inside the user's environment, right? So the API is calling a privileged environment to be able to interact with it. It doesn't necessarily sit in. I believe I'm answering that the correct way.
You need that compute power, basically. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
You have to have that SCU being provisioned, basically, so we can utilize it and run the prompt. Absolutely right.
Sir. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be similar to, jailbreaking a Tesla and trying to run your stuff in between. You still have to call back, right? and so this is a interaction and a negotiated, exchange between the Copilot system, which I think a lot of customers need to sort of go back and really realize it is very much contained in the user environment, right? There is not a Lighthouse and MSSP model per se for it yet. We'll see. Yet. So I hope that answered your question, DP. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trevor.
No, thank you. And any other questions, feel free to direct them to me, or answer them yourself or whatever. I would love to any sort of discussion you want to have. I'm down for it. But like I said, I hope this has got the wheels turning. This was our concept. This is what we came up with when we first had access to Copilot. But we wanted to see it in action. We wanted to realize this value. So what we did was we built out this playbook. So what you're seeing right here, this is an actual playbook that we built. It exists in real life. It's even being used in real life. If you've never seen a playbook before, this is something in our automation platform. It starts out with a trigger, and it's essentially a workflow. In this case, the trigger is the ingestion of any security incident. Whenever a security alert is raised, this playbook will trigger. And as this workflow completes itself, every single one of these blocks you see is an individual action. It's a task that will occur. These can be automated, semi-automated, or manual, doesn't matter. By the end of this workflow, you will have carried out a full investigation and response of that security alert that was raised. Now, this playbook may seem somewhat simplistic to you if you've seen other playbooks before. It's not super in-depth. It's not super huge or anything, but I guarantee you it's doing a lot of very cool stuff under the hood, which I'd like to point out to you. If you look at these blue highlighted blocks that you can see right here, every single one of these blocks is an individual, fully automated Copilot for Security prompt action. Now you can already start to see the massive speed increase, the massive efficiency boost that we're gaining by automating our interactions with Copilot. Because if you had a human sit down at a computer and try to enter in, all of these prompts into Copilot, that's going to take forever. It's going to take a very long time. And we don't need to wait. There's no reason for us to wait. We know what questions we want to ask Copilot, and we can fill out these questions. We can fill out these prompts dynamically using data from the alerts that we've ingested, using, those IOCs, those hosts, users, IP addresses, hashes, whatever we get from those alerts, we can fill out these prompts and run them all at machine speed. We don't need to wait for a human, and we also don't need to wait for a human to carry out certain parts of the investigation, which is what I'm going to show you right here. If you look at this purple block, this is very interesting. This is where it's essentially, you can see it's a branching path in the playbook. Well, what we're doing here, you can see there's a blue block followed by the purple block. In the blue block, we're asking Copilot a question. And then in the purple block, based on Copilot's response, we're either taking the upper branch or the lower branch of the playbook. And that's very cool. What's happening is essentially Copilot for Security is deciding the path of the playbook flow right here. AI is deciding what path we should take in this playbook, which is so cool. There's so much we can do with that. And it doesn't even need to be, this is just a binary decision, right? Yes or no. It could be a gradient. There's so many different ways that you can use this. So please keep this in mind. It's very cool. But essentially what we're doing right here is we're asking Copilot to perform a very quick knee-jerk initial investigation into this incident. And then based on Copilot's findings, we need to know, is this something that we should escalate? Do we need to escalate this right away, get it in front of the eyes of our L3, our L4 analysts, and get it taken care of right now? And this is where Copilot's power is able to speed the investigation along, because Copilot can make that decision lightning fast at machine speed and escalate this before a human being is even aware that the alert has come in. We're already performing that initial investigation and saying, this is a real incident. This is a true positive security incident. We got to get our response happening right away. It's very, very interesting what you can do with Copilot. But we don't want to stop there. Once we have escalated it, if you look at this orange block, this is where we're having Copilot perform an additional investigation of this incident and then provide all of the details it's able to come with, along with recommendations to the analyst, the human analyst who's going to take over. Copilot is essentially giving the human analyst everything they could possibly need, every tool they could need in their belt, along with this alert, which they have escalated, which Copilot has escalated, saying, please handle this right away. And also, here's everything you need to handle it. We're giving them everything they need to carry out the rest of the investigation and the response at speed. They can just jump right in, hit the ground running, and get this taken care of. And like you said, Ed, it's not like we don't necessarily want to rely on Copilot making all the decisions for us, but we do trust Copilot. We trust Microsoft and we trust Copilot, and we trust that it's able to equip us to make the decisions that we need to make, as long as we're using it right. Remember, it's just a tool. It's not a genie. It's not going to solve the problem for you, but we trust this tool and we can use it in really, really effective ways. The last thing I want to show you in this playbook is probably my favorite part, because this is not enough for us. We want to do even more. If you look at these red blocks, this is where, after the human analyst has taken over, carried out his investigation, carried out his response, we're then taking the human analyst's investigation actions and conclusions, and we're passing that back into Copilot. And we're saying, hey, Copilot, remember this security incident that we were handling earlier? Here's what we did. Here's the determination that our analyst reached, and here's the actions he took. Does this make sense to you? And Copilot is able to double check what this analyst has done, if it makes sense, if we've missed anything. Copilot's really good at pointing out if there's something we forgot, some piece of evidence we've overlooked. Maybe we forgot to isolate a host or something like that. Copilot just gives us that extra level of quality assurance. It's able to make sure that we are putting out the quality that we demand and that our clients demand. Everything that we do gets that extra set of eyes. And again, this is fully automated. This is happening at machine speed. There's no waiting for this. It's just happening. So this is a lot of cool stuff. And again, I'm sure it looks pretty fun on paper, but I want to show it to you in real life. I want to show you this actually running.
So far, the paper is impressive. I mean, just the innovation to see him say, I tried to do this and we developed this, right? Which is what I've been looking at for innovation. The innovation has to come outside of Microsoft a lot of times, right? And this is looking good.
Yeah, while you're setting up the demo, we did have a couple audience questions, and never want to ignore our audience. First one, and I can help with this: can your playbooks be scheduled? I would say absolutely, because this is based on logic apps, right? Am I wrong in that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're ever familiar with how logic apps works, there is a scheduling component to that. And here's the other one, and I don't know how to answer this, and maybe you don't either. Because I don't know how the cost is passed on to the customer in this type of scenario.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we can say that.
Let's grab that question for the end. Give time to think about it. That seems like that's a Jose's answer right there coming up. But I don't want to lose momentum on the demo. I want to see it in action.
Let's do it. Cool.
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's take it later.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm always happy to take cost questions, later when I'm sleeping.
We'll take it offline.
Exactly. So this is essentially the demo, which I'm going to show you. This will show you that exact playbook that I just showed you live in action, and how it actually looks as it runs on an actual security incident. Now, just to kind of set the stage, this demo is going to move very quickly. Like I said, there's a lot of machine speed decisions and analysis and stuff taking place here. So I'm probably going to pause it a few times and maybe, talk and try and narrate what's going on. I'll try my best for those of you who are listening audio only, but I highly encourage you to check out the actual the video recording, or get online right now and check out the video if you can. But yeah, it's going to move real fast. If you have any questions for me, we can either take them at the end, or you can feel free to interrupt me. I won't take offense. I'm more than happy to talk about whatever anyone's asking. But without further ado, I will go ahead and press play and start this demo. Essentially, we're looking at a security incident from Sentinel. A user was added to a privileged group. We know what user, we know what group they were added to. That's about it for now. So let's tab into the playbook. Right now, we're seeing the playbook running, and we're seeing the very first the very first Copilot automated action is running. It's in progress. It's actually already finished. What we've asked Copilot to perform a full investigation on this incident, and then based on the results of its investigation, we want to know, is this more likely to be a true positive, meaning an actual security incident, or a false positive, meaning just something benign, something, so the result of day-to-day actions that could resemble a security incident, but nothing that needs to actually be handled. In this case, Copilot has responded a single word. You see, yes. That is Copilot's response. If you've had any experience with Copilot, you may know that that is an unusually short response from Copilot. It tends to be quite wordy. This is a fun example of prompt engineering. We did this on purpose. We wanted Copilot's response to be just as snap quick as possible and to take as much or as little resources as possible. This is the point where we are going to decide if we want to escalate this or not. So we don't want to waste a single millisecond on Copilot typing out more than it has to. If Copilot,
how you doing that, by the way? That'd be a good tip, because sometimes I'll ask a question and I'll end it with, just give me the answer.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, I essentially worded the prompt to include specific instructions to Copilot saying, respond with either a yes or a no. Do not respond in any way that is not a yes or a no.
Don't get creative.
You sometimes have to, pull on the reins a little bit and tell it, hey, stop that.
Turn it off.
Anyway, we got a yes. Copilot thinks this is a true positive incident. We've now come to that purple block, which I showed you earlier. This is where we're going to take that branching path. In this case, Copilot said yes, so we are taking the upper branch. We know, or at least we believe, that this is more likely to be a true positive security incident, so we're going to treat it like that. We're already in the process of escalating this. You can see the next Copilot for security prompt has already run. We've asked Copilot to perform additional investigation and explain exactly why it thinks this is a true positive, and include any recommendations for the human analyst who's going to take over. We have now tabbed back. This is the human analyst view. By the way, we're showing you as deep under the hood of our systems as we possibly can here. This is down in the nitty gritty. This is what our analysts see every day as they work on our platforms. So this is the human analyst view. And if we scroll down, we can see Copilot is talking to this analyst. Copilot says, hey, here's my reasoning. I think that this is a true positive. Copilot then continues with a full write-up of the incident, telling us exactly what happened. We got a Azure Active Directory. Someone was added to a privileged group, tells us who it was, what group. We got the severity level. We got, this is actually really cool. Copilot points out the MITRE tactics that are related to this sort of action. In this case, persistence and privilege escalation. That's great. It will help the analysts know what to look for as they start to correlate between other alerts. It's also something we can save, and we do save, so that we can build up a historical sort of repository of what sorts of tactics are being levied against our clients. Very cool that Copilot, likes to include that sort of thing. Either way, we got a nice full write-up here. Down here at the bottom, Copilot says, here are my recommendations for the analyst who is going to take on this investigation. First, you need to review the details of the user who is added to the privileged group. Check their role, check their responsibilities, and basically check with the client if they have a legitimate need for these elevated permissions. That's a good recommendation. Number two, check the user's activity history for any suspicious behavior. Number three, review the security policies and controls related to PAM and Azure AD. All those are great recommendations. And then finally, and this is cool, this is where Copilot actually departs from its own strategy strategy here. It was taking a very pointed approach, just step by step, do this, do this, do this. Here's how you respond to this incident. This final recommendation is actually taking more of a holistic approach where it's looking at the security posture of the client as a whole and trying to improve it like over time, which I think is fun. Copilot says you should consider implementing additional security measures such as MFA or some kind of regular audit of privileged groups to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. I think that's great. I think it's cool that Copilot is taking such a well-rounded view to this investigation response. But either way, it's now time for the analyst to take over. Now time for the human to do his job and figure out what he's going to do. In this case, we're asking for his decision. He's now carried out his investigation. We're saying, what do you think? Do you agree with Copilot? Is this a true positive, or is Copilot way off base? Is this a false positive? And in this case, he disagrees. He says, no, Copilot's wrong. This is just day-to-day business actions. So someone was added to a group because they have a need to be in that group. Copilot's off. So we're going to say, okay, if that's what you think, then please explain why you think this is a false positive. How did you come to that conclusion? What steps did you take? In this case, the analyst says, well, I checked the audit logs. This is the human analyst writing. He's writing right here. He says, I checked the audit logs. I did not see any unusual or unauthorized access patterns. And furthermore, there were no signs that the account was compromised. And honestly, that's a pretty decent investigation. I can't fault his logic. That makes sense to me. But let's pass that back through Copilot just to make sure that there's not something we missed along the way. So you can see the playbook is continuing. We are already passing another prompt into Copilot. Copilot's evaluating this prompt. We're essentially saying, here's everything we know about this incident so far. Here's the conclusion that our analyst reached. Here's their justification for it. Please let us know if you agree with this analyst's reasoning. And we're tabbing back to the human view right now. Oops, sorry. Skipped back to the there we go. Tabbing back to the human view right now. And if we scroll down, we can see Copilot's assessment of the analyst response. So Copilot's talking to us again. Copilot says, well, based on the information that you've provided, it's not possible to definitively agree or disagree with this analyst's conclusion. Basically, Copilot says the reasoning is based on the absence of unusual or unauthorized access patterns and no signs of account compromise, but we need additional context here. We need to know the nature of the incident. We need to know what logs were reviewed. What was the criteria for determining if this was unusual or unauthorized? Copilot's like, I can't really make an informed judgment based off of this. We need more information. We need to carry out those recommendations that I gave, and we definitely need to know if this user actually has a legitimate need to be in that group. And Copilot's right about that. I think there's maybe something that this analyst has left out of their investigation. In the background, we're actually, because Copilot did not directly agree, we're asking Copilot for additional justification and recommendations. We're saying, okay, Copilot, you didn't agree with the analyst. What do we do now? Please, help us to, be certain that you're correct in your determination and let us know what we should do afterwards. So Copilot has already come up with further recommendations. First, it's going to justify its standpoint. It says, well, basically it says, I think this is cool. Copilot gets a little poetic here. It says, my disagreement is based on the fact that the absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. I think that's fun. Copilot knows how to turn a phrase. But basically, it launches into a three-part kind of justification for not agreeing with the analyst. It says, there are a lot of reasons why I don't agree with the analyst. Number one, the attacker might have used sophisticated techniques to erase their tracks or blend in. That's true. We didn't check that. Number two, the audit logs might not contain all the necessary information to detect a compromise. They might not include data about the failed login attempts, changes in user behavior. Basically, Copilot's saying we might be looking in the wrong place, which is true. We don't know that. Mm-hmm. And then number three, the audit logs might not have even been configured correctly, or they might not have been running at the time where the alleged compromise took place. We didn't check that either. And that's also true. So Copilot has come up with a pretty strong case as to why this analyst's investigation maybe fell short. And Copilot continues to say, well, this was a critical step. It's good. What the analyst did is good. We still need to carry out, my other recommendations. We still need to know if this user has a legitimate need to be in this group. We got to talk to the client. So now we're going to take one final step. This is not necessarily something that we would do in a live environment, but right here we're going to actually allow Copilot to talk directly to the client, just as the icing on the cake. We're saying, okay, Copilot, you want to talk to the client? Go for it. Please explain exactly why this is a true positive. Include any other questions, any other recommendations, so the client can continue remediation on their end. So if we looked, you can see we've already raised, automatically we've raised a full service desk ticket ticket with all the information that we have. This is raised automatically by the playbook as it was running. And down here at the bottom, we have appended Copilot's response where, yes, right here, it says Copilot, for recommendation and remediation containment, the client needs to first identify the user who was added to the privileged group, let us know if this action was expected and authorized. If not, going to have to remove the user from the group, investigate their activities, see if they've carried out malicious actions, and finally review the user access policies, make sure that only necessary and authorized users have privileged access in the future. So there you go. That is from start to finish.
I'd add a couple things. I'd add a couple things to that. Number one, if it's an insider threat, maybe a note to HR to fire that analyst. Or
let's dive deeper. But I have a question.
Go ahead. Yeah. What's up?
The interaction between Copilot and the actual biological organic analyst it's trying to build the thing that I talked about earlier. It's trust.
Yeah.
And one of the things that trust is visual, right? So I'm seeing the standalone, but I'm wondering how this goes with the embedded experience. Meaning, show me the attack path and the observation path the way the Defender would render it, so I can see. And or maybe, hey, we've encountered this before, right? And we have a high degree of certainty that this warrants an investigation. Now, my question to you is, let's assume the Copilot is wrong, and the analyst puts in their counter argument to say, hey, this is why this is wrong. This is business as usual. Or even if it's not business as usual, this may be the way that we do processes that's flagging this. How does your API help Copilot learn? Because if this has happened before, I thought your demo was going to go down the line. We have encountered this before. Please see incident so-and-so that we resolved 1 month ago with the same thing. Because when you see it, patterns, there's a term for it. When you see lack of execution on something that then lends to this is out of the ordinary because we've never seen this before. So my question to you is, does it learn? Does it learn from the analyst to say, hey, we went down this road before. I'm giving you a high degree of certainty that while your observations are correct, they are still a false positive.
That is a fantastic question. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jose.
Do you want to answer that one, or shall I answer it, Torvald?
I mean, I got a lot to say, but you can
go
start
for it.
off.
Go for it, and I'll add to whatever you've got to say. Go for it.
No, it's a great question. So the first thing I want to say is you've hit upon a very important aspect of this demo, which is that this demo is essentially, it's a bit of a teaser. It's a bit of like just a little bite of the cake that we have on offer here. And I hope that this can show you the sorts of things that are possible using Copilot when you start to ingrain it into your processes. Just to pull a bit from the slide in front of you, Copilot is deciding the path of the playbook, allowing us to escalate this at blazing speed, before any human could ever possibly have seen it. Copilot's performing the initial investigation, passing assessment and recommendations to the analyst. Copilot's even double checking the analyst's work, pointing out where their investigation conclusions are lacking, and we don't have to stop there. Like you said, Copilot could actually look back into the historical knowledge base that we've built up. I'm glad you hit on that, because that's something that we are actively doing. As I pointed out, we're building up historical knowledge of what sort of tactics are being levied against our client. We also know, what sort of alerts have occurred in the past and what the conclusions for these alerts were. And we're able to essentially use all of that to enable Copilot to make a more informed decision. Now, what you just saw, that demo, this was actually something I designed as a stress test for Copilot. You could see, I hope you noticed it was almost intentionally vague. Like I provided Copilot with as little information as possible for that demo, because I wanted to prove to myself that even in a situation with almost no information except for the very basics, that Copilot could still essentially assist in improving the efficiency and the quality of an investigation. And to me, that is exactly what we saw in that demo, is that even with as little as possible information, Copilot was still able to help out. In reality, we would be feeding a lot more information into Copilot, including things like, for example, this client has these specific hosts and users and hashes that are their crown jewels, right? If any of these ever, is touched, then we're going to have to escalate this right away. Or if this user ever is, it displays unusual behavior, then we're going to have to perform isolation and potentially like a password reset. We have all this information. We have standard, not only our own standard operating procedures, but also each client has their own operating procedures that they would like us to follow for them. And we're able to build that in and pass that information on to Copilot as well.
Okay.
We're also,
Yep.
oh, sorry.
So your product has the ability to identify PAs and HPTs, priority accounts, and high value targets from past stuff and because you can annotate those in Defender one way or the other. So it can either be manual or say, if you see any of these particular entities or artifacts will maybe represent privileged accounts, C-suites, or admins, you need to put more attention to that. Let me ask one more question before you go to the next thing. I see you interacting with one analyst. Does your solution have the ability to just say, because Rod and I trust each other technically, but he and I would definitely go ask somebody else, like, are you sure? Because I asked Ron, he said, yeah, let me take a look, he's right. Or, I always like to say, let me ask the question in a different way. So
we all analysts take different approaches.
Yeah. And I like to pivot this way and say, hey man, did you see what I'm seeing? And they go, yeah, that's normal, Ed, or I don't know. So can your product interact with more than one analyst? And the reason I asked that question is because within your presentation, I saw that you had an icon that represented teams. So I'm thinking you're spinning up a war room or an artifact.
Exactly.
Is that what it is? Okay.
So what we've learned as well from the experience that we have as an MSSP is that we actually use DevSecOps, right? We have all of our pipelines automated. We actually create analytic rules, and then they all align to watch lists, as you know, right? And that's the point. You identify your IOCs, you get your priority accounts and everything that you need to protect, and you put it into your watch list, and then everything is tailored basically to those watch lists, which means then you automate and you get rid of the noise and all of that. So that's the actual platform, and that's why we recommend having Sentinel as well in place. Because that's another question: do I need Sentinel if I have Copilot? Yeah, absolutely. It's a great solution. It's a great tool. It will help you to actually contextualize that data. They put it in one place so you can actually then look into it and build your tables. And actually within Copilot, then you can look at certain tables. You can go table level, which will give you more context and get rid of the noise, really.
Well, I see the use cases coming from partners and from customers who are still going to, like I said, provide a whole lot of the innovation. You have to have your personality. The personality from an IR, incident responder, is not the same personality from someone who's an incident investigator. Because the incident investigator may often be, they're interchangeable. Is the IR incident response when it's confirmed, or incident investigator when you come in and now you got DFARS coming on, right? And looking at it. So I'm looking for partners who have that response personality about them. Like, we've confirmed that this is happening. So show me Copilot operating when we have a confirmed breach, and we're trying to do that containment investigation, and then you're also building up your intelligence about the tactics. Because the first thing you don't want to do is shut off the adversary too quickly, right? Because we don't know the extent of their infiltration. We would assume that if they're in, they're privileged, because they have access to Copilot. Now, your API provides a level of installation, because you can probably see when they're manipulating their response from your API. I'm up here inside the customer environment. And to our listeners, I'm doing stuff with my hands, right? So you guys I can watch and do it. But I think the root of the question is you can definitely interact with more. Copilot can definitely interact with more than one incident responder in your solution.
Absolutely. And remember when I said that we have our attack surface management solution as well? So we take into account all of the Microsoft solutions, we take the APIs, we collect the data that we need, and we put it in that single pane of glass, and then Copilot can query that database, basically. That will give you what you need.
Exactly. And that's sort of, I guess, an automatic benefit of the way that we use our API to interact with Copilot, because just, a byproduct of this is that we end up with exactly one conversation per incident. And that conversation is something that every analyst on our platform automatically has access to, just by viewing that incident. So we automatically have this sort of collaboration just built in by design. And of course, this is possible if you're using Copilot manually. You can send a link to your conversation. You can send that link to someone else, but it doesn't just happen automatically. You have to actually link them to it. So that's just one of the cool things that this enables. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
What we've shown you today, one thing is that we've shown you today, guys, is nowhere near to what we have right now. As simple as that. We can't do it, obviously, for obvious reasons, right? It's our IP, but there's so much more we can do. There's so much more data that we've managed to
can't
add.
Show you
Actually, we can't. We wish we could, right? But it's just phenomenal. It's a game changer in cybersecurity for sure.
All of the partners are holding their stuff close to the vest.
Yeah.
The only partner that came up that's going to put it out there was not really a security partner, was Tanium, but they do something very much different, right? And so they realize, hey, we'll show it to you. Your ability to duplicate it may be limited because you don't own the underlying solution that we have, right? And so, but I get
to be honest, the reason we share is because sharing is caring, right? And the support we have from Microsoft is being exceptional. James Key, for example, I mean, he's been a key player just to make this happen for us as well. And again, right, you give us support, we give you support back. As simple as that. It's a partnership, and that's the point, right?
Well, and also, I mean, we're really proud of it. I mean, we are, as a company, we're really proud of what we're doing because we really feel, and we've observed that we're the first ones doing it like this. No one else is using Copilot like this, and we want to shout it from the rooftops. It's amazing. Everyone should be doing this.
There's a good question from our audience, and I think really important to highlight. In that, is this something to start? Before we hit to that question, is this something that's actually available for customers now, or are we still kind of, a few weeks, few months out or whatever? Because the question is, because I believe this will absolutely help customers save SCU costs, because if you're developing and vetting the prompts, the good prompts beforehand, it's going to burn less SCU.
You got it.
But is this a customer offering, or is this something that you'll do for customers?
It's in production right now.
In production.
So
Okay.
Yeah. It's
that
happening. It's being used as we are talking right now.
Live. We're doing it.
Outstanding questions. I don't know if he's a plant like you guys, but he asked us a really good question. So his question is: possible for Performanta to save SCU costs by using your sort of workflow to ask questions to third-party APIs versus Copilot? I think if I was to boil that down, I would say, before I pull in, think of a consultant. Before I pull in Copilot, which is a $500 an hour consultant, let me make sure I'm pulling them in for something that's been verified. So it seems like your product bounces in, can bounce out. But once you start the investigation process, the counter runs. And so does that counter still continue to run for that prompt series where Copilot has said his business? You went to the blue box. I forget which box represents the analyst. The analyst is doing their thing. Does the analyst start back engaging and starts the consumption of more SCUs? And Rod, I'm saying this wrong, correct me in here, right? I'm trying to figure out. It's like a start stop. I'm in. Copilot stops, said his piece. You go do yours. You re-engage back in.
Yeah.
So is that part of the methodology of the mindset of, hey, we're going to conserve usage? It's really based on you, Mr. Analyst. Is that where we're going with your solution?
So
exactly.
we're missing a step in here, which is basically hiring a SIEM engineering team, which we have in-house. Basically, the data that we look into is being contextualized. It actually adds value. We look at tables. It's not just plugging a firewall and there you go. No, it's actually data that will be matched with analytic rules, and then when something's triggered, it's because there's a problem, there's an issue in here. It might be a watch list, for example, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna throw something in that probably is gonna make people mad, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Go ahead.
We have the capability within Logic Apps to spin up an SCU and spin down an SCU or delete SCUs.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you would do this. I don't know if it's even supported, but there is the potential, right? Okay, I'm going to go submit this prompt to Copilot for security right now. I'm going to spin up an SCU and that's my prompt, and I'm going to spin it down, saving the customer money.
Exactly. Yes.
Possible for sure.
Possible. It's possible.
Definitely something that's possible.
Yeah. I don't know what that looks like. I don't even know if that's supported, but who knows?
Who knows?
And so with that particular small collaboration piece, and I just want to know this, the reason I asked that thing, how does Teams, Microsoft Teams, play into this? Is that communication solely in the standalone with the analyst, or is Copilot communicating within the Teams medium to be able to get this back? Or is that just inside the standalone experience that analyst is communicating?
Anything really. You can connect to anything. You can create your war room within Teams. You can attach this to an ITSM tool, no problems, and you can have that bilateral communication in between, and it's all automated as well, so you can actually have those responses in both places.
Yeah, 100%.
I saw the ITSM stuff, and I was like, okay, taking interactions where you go in, because ultimately that's going to be the gospel that you archive, the actual investigation, right? The resolution of it. All right. I don't know if you know this answer, even though it's your service. How does it scale? Can I do this a dozen times in succession, 400 times in succession? Meaning, we talked about a single analyst, but if you're in a medium-sized shop and you've given your analyst access to this, without revealing the upper limits of your product, can I have a conversation with 22 analysts simultaneously? I just threw out a number 22.
I think we can take that one offline.
Okay, we'll take it offline. I'm trying to write the question down. It's here in my head. Otherwise,
I'm more than happy to follow up on that. But it's reduced the mean time to respond. And you could see, for example, Trollbot, right? He went so quickly through a demo, and that will take 30 seconds, 1 minute, if that, to go through all of that process. Again, thinking about having to imagine if you have to log into CrowdStrike or log into Splunk, you don't have to do that anymore. You've got everything in that single pane of glass, and then you got the context, and you can query your data right away from one portal. I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm thinking more of the limitations around.
And then think about zero trust, access, having to have an account with a different vendor and this and that. It's just more complexity and gaps in security. All you need is this one account that will give you access to everything, really, if you set it up correctly.
Yeah.
You still follow up RBAC and, make sure you have all your MFA, you have your PIM in place, you have all of your controls, obviously. But again, it's having that integration and ease of management.
So let me ask another question about your services, and I'm going to go back to your website and pull everything down. Am I safe to assume that you guys have an assessment and a readiness offering to get them prepared to say, hey, before we do this, here's some things you need to get squared away, before you start jumping in with both feet. Okay. I just want to make sure, because I'm seeing more partners before they even have a solution like yours. Yeah. They're saying, oh, we're Copilot ready. Well, you're only providing assessments. You're telling me what I need to go do, but help me prepare for this. And as it evolves, okay. I announced that this is an engagement, a per consultant and engagement model that then goes on operations. Makes sense.
We have a readiness assessment, so we look into, for example, RBAC controls, Entra ID, conditional access. We also look into data security. We look into labeling. We look into just getting you started, really, making sure you have your Azure policy in place, making sure you are all, secure across the whole stack. So we'll go through a full 365 assessment. We produce a Power BI report so you can see where your gaps are, basically, across your whole stack.
Now, two things I absolutely love about what you've shown tonight. Number one is the API, which really excites me because, I think everybody's been kind of waiting for a Copilot for security API. So that's super cool. The other piece I think is you don't ever have to leave that tool. You don't have to jump between the embedded version in Intune and your tool, or Copilot for Security, the standard standalone tool, it's all there. I saw that where the analyst just answered the questions, which I think is super cool. But we did have, I think maybe we can end on this. I thought this was kind of interesting. Maybe this is a bit of feedback if you don't do this already, because we always talk about, even in Sentinel and everything else, watching the watcher, making sure that everything is logged. That's one of the things right now that we're not struggling with, but there will be more on this coming out probably within the next, just say soon, for logging for Copilot for Security. So we were working on something last week, and I had one of the product managers reach out, and because periodically I'll go in and I'll look for, look through the logs, see what we can identify, and it's getting better and better, but not everything is available. But what about your tool? As the question was from the audience member there, reporting on these things that are happening within even your tool, what's going on with Copilot for Security? Is there reporting around that?
Yeah. Yeah, that was originally how I envisioned that last step, was exactly that. Basically keeping a running audit of the analysts and the decisions that they make, so that we can essentially proactively get them, if they need additional training, get that set up, we'll have a running log showing, okay, this analyst has missed this sort of, piece of evidence this many times. He needs additional training using this tool so that he won't miss that anymore. So that was one of the essentially core reasons that I put that in place at the end, was exactly what you're describing there. And also, you utilizing Copilot to essentially audit other things. And I'll just leave it at that. But there's a lot that you can do with Copilot, not just limited to necessarily incident response. There's a lot of other, even security related or non-security related things that you can use Copilot to essentially be a tool in a process oriented sort of way.
Is there a chance when someone contacts your company that they're actually talking with Copilot for Security and not one of you?
You never know, right? That's what the future looks like, and that's what.
That's a stretch. Right? Yeah, I'm gonna.
You never know. Listen, 1 year ago we would not have thought that we would be this far, right? And now it's actually happened. At first, Microsoft had all of this hype, the marketing coming up. It's is that really a product? Would that work out? Now we're seeing it, and it's okay, now we're talking. This is next level. This is going to change security, and it is really.
I can see Copilot handing you off to another Copilot. I'm not skilled in that particular. I don't have that skill. You need to go talk to CoHub, CoGit, Co365, CoAI, right? And I've seen them.
Absolutely.
It does a pilot handoff. And it was a great blog I was just reading one day. I'm like, that makes sense. Right? But I've yet to see in the wild where it's actually practical, right? To be able to do
imagine a Copilot. This is what I think the future is. Imagine a Copilot that auto-generates another Copilot if it doesn't have that specific skill set. So it just generates its own.
I'll form my opinion on that and keep it to myself.
Never say never, my friend.
Not to say that it wouldn't. I'm just thinking about other repercussions and other considerations when you start doing that, right?
Okay, yeah, hijacking and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, because you're not talking to another Copilot, you're talking to me. And I'm gonna tell you everything's good. You don't investigate that. That's that WMI activity we do it all the time. RDP between servers, we do all domain counts all the time. We're good.
Emotional support Copilot.
Emotional support Copilot.
I need that some days, to be honest. It's not available. Where do I buy it?
This has been a great show, guys. I really, really appreciate it. And it really makes us really think, Ron. We need to have maybe another, I know we're running out of time for the year, but give other partners a second round. Now, do we prior part? I don't know. We'll figure it out for the show. But now that it's getting
lottery, we'll have a lottery. They can fight it out.
Put in a lottery, be easily pull and come back on. Right? You get 2 tickets if you're a prior guest. 1 ticket if you're not a prior guest. You just do it random. They have lottery applications. So not Copilot. Let's go away from that for a second. With the strength of your practice, are you guys strong in Defender for servers and Defender for cloud?
Absolutely. that's
Okay.
where we focus on Defender for Cloud, right? And this is our core services. The foundations are all based on Microsoft. So when I said the XDR managed controls, it's all Microsoft. So we have Entra ID, Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Servers, and so on, Purview, and it's all being offered through managed services as well, 24/7 SOC operations, like I said, in the UK, US, and South Africa. So again, yeah, that's what we do.
Within the products, yeah. But I'm seeing the request within the products. You with Purview, I need you really good at insider risk, insider threat. And you're a defender for cloud.
Yep.
I want you really good at understanding AWS and GCP alerts that come in also. Because I'm having to look at that now because people are multi-cloud. You know, it's hard to find a single cloud company of size.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether they inherit it or they this is their business model, right?
Yep.
I was pulling my hair out if I had any, trying to figure out a GCP problem the other day, right? So yeah, okay. Well, guys, this has been outstanding. I love the demo. AKA, how much swag do you send Ed and Rod? Are you asking Omega Man how much we send out, how much they sending us? I haven't got anything. I get where you're coming from. Terrible part. They didn't send us anything. I want a Marvel t-shirt.
I'll have to send you guys something for sure.
Oh, we're gonna close the show out with this one. Omega Man, and I think he just
man, I've got some back for you. Look, I've got my pug and my raccoon. There you go, from Bill.
You
So
have Delta listed as a customer on your website. Was your product running in the environment?
I got more swag than you guys too.
Well, that's a good question, Omega Man, but I'm not gonna ask it. I know where I was when all that happened, and I had a bad day.
Yep, he was traveling. Yeah, I truly appreciate this. Thank you so much for coming on, and you did not disappoint. And the individual that said you absolutely have to have these folks on, they were absolutely right.
And it goes without saying,
Glad
we're not
to hear.
sponsored by any partner. We don't take anything from anybody else. We don't shake favors. If you go back and look at our show notes, we have everybody from Blue Voyant to Defendia to Bulletproof to Quorum. We want folks who have innovative, who want to come in. And in the end, the customers that trust us are our customers.
Let's build this together, right? We're building together, and that's the main point.
Because if we thought your product wasn't good, go back and watch some of our shows. You'll see how we we asked the really crazy questions. But no, this is great. I took a bunch of notes. I want to follow up with you guys. Troll, especially you, Mr. Johnson. I want to talk about maybe trying to connect with you in the next week or so.
Sounds good.
This has been
See you
a
in
great
Copenhagen.
show for my listeners. Big shout out to Omega Man 55 and DB. Great questions. I'm sure that when people watch it, they're going to go back and it will probably spike them to ask even more questions. That's it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for having us on the podcast. That was a lot of fun. I would do this every day. This is great.
We'll hold you to it. We need guest hosts. We will recruit you to come on.
Oh boy.
So we can take holiday. Just let you guys know do that. Right.
All right.
You close it out.
Guys.
I
Thank you
will.
very much.
Thank you so much, Jose. I think you have, what is it, Security Sentinel at Substack?
My blog, yeah.
You have your blog.
Terval,
do you have a blog as well, or are you just riding Jose's coattails?
No, just my LinkedIn. Yeah.
I'm not.
I'm just trying to figure out how folks connect with you, right? So there's the company website, but there's, I think it would be interesting to be able to connect with you, ask questions and stuff like that.
Our next show is the 9th, and I think we'll be in Copenhagen. Maybe I'll do my show live from there. Like stay awake.
Oh, that'd be great.
Maybe
I'll send you. Hey, I did the show from Denmark. Remember that?
That's right. You did do it. I have to do the same show. I'll be right over there doing it. So
I have to give you some tips. I actually have like they don't have Uber over there, but they have their own Uber and their own DoorDash and all that good kind of stuff. I got some apps you need to load. So
all right, I'll do it. What if my wife hadn't already figured out? I get on a bike. I'll run. It can be more than whatever. We'll do it. All right, everyone. We will be back next week on Monday, which will be September 8th, September 9th. I look with confidence on my calendar. It's probably written down wrong. We will have our usual crew back. I actually forget what the host and or the topic is. Shows I'm not prepared, but have fun. Let's do it, everyone. Save that.
All right. Next
Happy
week.
Labor Day, everybody.
Thank you, guys.